This is what it's like applying and interviewing for jobs right now in corporate America.
Hey, Natalie. As a 20-year job search career coaching veteran, you are not crazy. This is happening right now in this particular job market. And if it's okay, I'd like to break down what's happening to you and the thousands of other people that are waiting weeks on end. First of all, studies show right now it's taking about 22 weeks or longer on average to fill positions because of exactly what you just described. Extra hoops that take longer and longer that stretch that hiring process out. So not crazy. It's absolutely happening, but let's talk about why it's happening. When you have a time where there's massive layoffs and restructuring, all of a sudden companies start to obsess about costs. And so hiring becomes an area of concern. It is the most expensive cost in any company. So the normal decision makers, the people that usually can decide who they're going to hire or not, tend to suddenly get an added layer, which you just experienced. There's somebody who becomes what we call the economic buyer. The economic buyer is the person that can say no when everybody else says yes. So what's happened here is they've taken the control away from the hiring managers who used to be able to make their own hires, and now somebody even higher up has to make that financial decision, needs to sign off on you getting hired. That's what you experienced. So let's talk through the other types of buyers. Normally what happens when you first get screened, you talked about the recruiter, right, calling you up and scheduling an interview. They're technical buyers. Technical buyers have no control over you getting hired, getting the job, but they absolutely can get you screened out. So the first hoop we all have to jump as a job seeker today is the technical buyer. We've got to get past the ATS. We've got to get past the phone screen with the recruiter, okay? That's the technical buyer. Then we get taken up to the user buyer. This is the person that's going to directly benefit from you working with them. So this is going to be coworkers or the hiring manager who you report to. So you go through those interviews, that panel interview you talked about. Those are all the user buyers, making sure that you're going to make their work easier, not harder. So they're listening for all the right things, okay? So you slay that. Awesome. But guess what? None of them are the economic buyers. So now all of a sudden, there's a VP that needs to interview you to sign off on you, right? Check off. That takes time because they've got a busy schedule and they're traveling. So you go through that. Here's the problem. That VP will go back and say maybe out of the 5 candidates they were interviewing that, 3 were okay and 2 weren't. And then the hiring manager and his or her team decides which one they're going to choose. So you could literally have been screened out by that VP, but they're not going to tell you that. They're going to come back and say, oh, they thought you were great, but they went with someone else. And you're never going to find out what got you knocked out. But I'm going to tell you right now what got you knocked out, my friend. Your brand. Your brand, your UVA, your unique value add was not conveyed strongly enough to that VP so that they saw really powerful ROI, return on the investment, meaning they met with you, Natalie, and that VP was like, oh, she is going to save or make us enough money to justify the cost of hiring her. I'm going to give the thumbs up to her. That's what happened. At that level, when you've got to talk to economic buyers that high up in the chain, you better be bringing your A game with your brand proposition so they know that you absolutely are going to provide that ROI, that return on the investment. So now they go back down, and even though you're the candidate everybody loved, right, you don't get the job. That happens every single day in this job market. So the lesson learned here is understand there are multiple buyers of your services. That's what you are. You're a business of one selling your services. You're going through weeks of interviews so that every single one can meet you. But ultimately, my friend, you're not just trying to impress a technical buyer and the user buyers. You have got to impress that economic buyer, and you got to figure out who that player is. And you got to up your game. You got to up your brand game. I hope that made sense. You can do this, but you got to know how to play the game, my friend. And, that's why myself and my team are teaching people how to go from getting ghosted to getting offers, all about brand. It starts with brand. Not your resume, not your LinkedIn profile, not your application, not your interviews, your brand. If you know your brand, all those other things will be more powerful and you will get the job. That is the truth in this market. So I hope that shed some light. I know it doesn't make it any less frustrating, my friend. I feel you. Thanks for sharing. Go get them.